Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Ultimate Red Skull. Making his debut in the Ultimate Comics Avengers 1 back in 2009, Ultimate Red Skull is a lot different than the Red Skull casual moviegoers would have guessed at this point. See, the son of Steve Rogers, yes, and Gail Richards. They even hid him and trained him to become the next Captain America. It's wild. The Ultimates are wild. He always feared that he would never live up to his father's expectations. I mean, fair. At just age 17, he killed all the doctors and soldiers at the military base. He was in charge, and his side hustle was planning this badass escape in the meantime. He then got the haunting look by using a kitchen knife and carving his head. So that's disgusting. Nice gross way to kick off this list. And before we continue on to number 9, guys, if you could go ahead and Hulk smash that like button because it really helps us out here at the studio. You guys are the best. Now back to the list. Coming in at number 9, we have Lyra. Taking place on Earth 8009, beginning with Hulk Raging Thunder issue 1. We find Lyra Walters, or sometimes referred to as Savage She-Hulk. She is the daughter of Thundra and Earth 616 Hulk. So yeah, she's from Earth 8009 in the 23rd century, and at that time the Earth was split into different factions, right? So the guys faction were like warriors, they looked up to like past heroes. Then the women came together under the United Sisterhood Republic, and they were outgunned and outmanned, like literally outmanned. So Thundra got sent to Earth, our Earth 616, where she met our Hulk, and had a baby. How cute. Lyra actually gets stronger when she's calm, and she's able to tap into the gamma sight, which means she can see the flow of gamma radiation. I'm doing my best interpretation of gamma radiation. Can't see the green, but it's a lot of gamma behind me. So she becomes a smarter and smoother fighter in this state. But if she becomes angry, she'll actually become weaker, which is fun. Let's play with that idea of it. Number 8, Ultron. In the MCU, Tony and Bruce are the masterminds behind Ultron. But in the comics, it was actually Hank Pym. See, Ultron made his first debut back in 1968 in Avengers 54, and beneath the crimson cowl, we discover is indeed Ultron Pym. I love how in Age of Ultron they used a red cowl to hide his new and improved look. It was a nice reveal. In the comics, Hank Pym was actually the father of Ultron, so there's been many versions of Ultron, seeing as he constantly wants to upgrade himself and be bigger, badder, and bolder. He actually has the same brain patterns as Hank Pym. He figured it needed a personality, much like our MCU version of Ultron is basically Tony Stank, but with more, you know, metal, rage, fire, and blood, and horribleness. Number 7, Franklin Richards. Born in New York City, Franklin Richards, of course being the son of Reed Richards and Susan Storm, is quoted from Galactus himself as the most powerful mutant ever. Nice, that's it. Put that on a resume. Boop, that's sick. He is a mutant beyond Omega power. You heard it from Big Guns himself. See, Franklin was a member of Gen X, and he's also a future X-Men member in the Ultimate X-Men comics. Some of his powers include vast reality warping, psionic powers. He also has control over the universe, so awesome. He's got precognitive powers, so his dreams tip him off on what's gonna happen in real life. That happens to me, except it's always embarrassing, and they end up happening. He can see the future in his dreams. That's so OP. He can resurrect the dead, he can time travel, teleport, astral project, and he can duplicate planets and or people. So yeah, ego, living planet. You're doomed either way, pal. At a young age, he was able to create a pocket universe, and then in Fantastic Four issue 604, this dude even took on not 1, not 2, but 3 Celestials. One of them he actually just took out with 1 punch. 1 punch, man. 1 punch, man. Huh. Needless to say, Franklin Richards is not somebody you want to mess with in any of his pocket universes. Franklin has a middle name, and that's Benjamin, which is nice because they named him after their good pal, Ben Grimm, the Thing. My middle name's Douglas. Number 6, Red She-Hulk. So this mysterious character just showed up when the Red Hulk gathered a team to hunt down Domino. So while Wolverine was fighting Red Hulk, he like scratched his eyes out, which is a mess. And then just as Wolverine was about to finish him off, bam! Red She-Hulk comes in to save the day, and she's fierce. Like right off the bat, she taunts Wolverine by showing him her fancy new outfit that used to belong to Domino. Like she had Domino's gun, she had Elektra's sai, and then she bragged about how she killed the two and took their weapons and clothes. So she's kind of a hot mess. She held off the fight long enough for Red Hulk to recuperate, and then unbeknownst to Red Hulk until later on, the identity of the new mysterious Red Badass is actually none other than Betty Ross. General Ross became the Red Hulk and was an Avenger at one point. So his daughter, Betty, naturally also became the Red She-Hulk. Now, I know what I said about her earlier makes her sound like an absolute savage. In some of these comics, yeah, she is. She even killed the Hulk in Incredible Hulk 634, so you gotta check more of her out. Her powers are pretty nuts. During the scrap with Wolverine, she spat in his face, which is yucky. First of all, we don't do that anymore, 6 feet apart, people. But secondly, her saliva is acid. So she grabbed Red Hulk and they both ducked out in the sewers while his eyes melted. Yuck. Number 5, Stinger, aka Cassie Lang. This one I think we actually might see in the MCU sooner than we think, so yes. The daughter of Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, is one of my favorite parts of the Ant-Man films. She's so cute, she's funny, the way they interact, it's just good. It's a nice father-daughter relationship that we kind of saw with Morgan and Tony, but it was just nicer, and this lasted much longer. So in the comics, she actually took over for her father after his death and Avengers disassembled. Now, I don't think Paul Rudd's gonna leave the MCU anytime soon, but if/when he does, I think they've shown enough growth of Cassie Lang, literally, that they can have her suit up now. I mean, who knows, maybe after he supposedly blipped, Cassie wanted to like avenge him and stuff. We didn't really see a lot of that side. Even in the comics, she was asked by Scarlet Witch to join the Young Avengers. Then she donned the name Stinger after she died and came back to life. Now, while I don't think this exactly is gonna happen anytime soon in the movies, I'm getting an idea that she works alongside Scott Lang in the next movie. That's my prediction. See, Scott watched Hank and Hope play catch up during this franchise. She practically begged him to get her own suit, but Hank's like, no, or Michael Douglas said no like 1,000 times, he yelled a lot too. Scott probably saw this and knew it was gonna happen eventually with him and Cassie, right? So we had that little time jump in Endgame, now we've got an older Cassie in a world that's pretty dangerous. Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. Maybe it's Maybelline. And number 4, Valeria Richards. The second child, as you would have guessed, by Reed Richards and Susan Storm. She made her debut in Fantastic Four Volume 3, Issue 54. Valeria is also so badass like her brother. She may not be as powerful as her brother, with the whole Omega level pocket universe jazz, but she's super smart, smarter than her dad even. Pretty sick. She's also more into working alongside her uncle, Victor Von Doom. There's always the cool uncle everybody loves, Can't help it, just too cool. Hashtag too cool for school. She believes that Reed also never really used his knowledge to help people. Rather, he just did things for himself, which is a common theme in superhero worlds. Donning the nickname Brainstorm in the meantime, hopefully we get to see her sometime soon. Number 3, Scotty Summers. Making his debut in Mutant X issue 1 back in 1998, Scotty Summers is the son of Avengers member Havoc and Madeline Pryor. The Inferno event is probably the most noted piece of his history. See, they wanted to use Scotty Summers as a sacrifice in order to open up a portal to the Goblin Force. Madeline saved him, but in doing so, she became possessed by the Goblin Queen. This was when he showed his true power. That power just happens to be up there with Franklin Richards. Celestial level, baby. He's the best. He has soul sense empathy, so he has the ability to sense the goodness in others without even touching them. And on top of that, he can read minds, so it doesn't matter how you feel or think, Scotty already knows. And Psionic Firebird is pretty wild too. He can turn into a psychic firebird whose claws can harm you physically and or mentally. Nice. Number 2, Vision, the son of Iron Man and Banner. In Captain America Civil War, we see the fallout of Tony and Cap begin. See, after creating an evil robot son who wants nothing but destruction, Tony figures, well, maybe if I make another one, the new body and Mind Stone will kind of be good. And it did, it was pretty sweet, and he kicks ass. Vision started out as his android that belonged to Tony Stark, and then by time Infinity War, Banner says the line, "You lost another Superbot?" And then Tony responds with, "I didn't lose him, he's evolving." So this is an interesting time in the MCU. Vision is like the son of Iron Man, and then after we lost him, I knew there would be more. Even in this poster, there's a glitch, a little speck of color left in it. In Infinity Gauntlet, we see a colorless Vision after he meets a similar demise. So when that poster was released, I figured there was a part of him that was downloaded and left somewhere, because Marvel doesn't just make printing errors. I don't know why we didn't look into this more. So with WandaVision releasing on Disney Plus next year, this could become reality. Who knows where the baby Avenger will end up, but I'm excited and also very nervous. Please be okay. And finally at number 1, we got Scar. Making his debut in World War Hulk issue 5, he was conceived during the Planet Hulk storyline. He's a son of Hulk and Kyra the Old Strong. After Hulk had spent time on Sakaar, he also started spending a little bit of alone time, you know? So after Hulk had left the planet, Sakaar had popped out of a cocoon and he resembled a teenager after just a year. So, growing pretty fast. Now, given the fact he was born to a not so chill planet, he learned to kill like it was a normal thing. Well, he needed to kill for survival. Eventually, he ends up on Axman Bone's radar. So Scar retains the old power as well, so he has the ability to control tectonic energy, like summon lava and magma, and he can also tap into energy projection. Out of the many children of the Hulk, Scar easily takes the top of that list, and also the top of this list as well, because he's here, so there it is.
Coming in at number 10, we have Jerry Drew. Jessica Drew, otherwise known as Spider-Woman, decided that she would take a break from trying to save the world and focus on building up a family. Well, it turns out the world wanted that to be hard for her too. After the baby was born, it was extremely sick. Since spider people normally get their powers from an irradiated spider, just like Jessica did, they have irradiated blood. This exposure to radiation caused her baby to be very sick, and doctors couldn't find any way to help out the poor boy. This left everything up to Spider-Woman to try and fix the problem. She came up with a cure for her own powers in hopes that this would cure her son of this horrible sickness, and turns out that it unlocked all of his spider abilities. But unfortunately, this didn't cure him from being incredibly ill, but he could still survive with his newfound strength. He would later become Spider-Boy, a young whippersnapper addition to the Spider family. Coming in at number 9, we have Thunderstrike. Eric Masterson was a powerful hero known as Thunderstrike. He was the wielder of a powerful Asgardian weapon, and in some ways it was similar to Mjolnir, but he would fall the sad fate that some heroes are met with, and that is of course dying. In the time of him missing Thunderstrike's son, Kevin Masterson would step in as the new hero that everyone needed, and in this time he would have the added edge that his father didn't. The Valkyrie Grunhilda would come down to Earth to teach the young hero how to use his mighty weapon so he wouldn't end up the same way that his father did. Kevin, running around now as Thunderstrike, would be able to become such a powerful hero that there was a time when Thor was nowhere to be found and Kevin stepped in to fill his spot. That's pretty gnarly. You have to be one bad dude to be able to come in and take the spot of the God of Thunder. Of course, when Thor came back, he was like, sorry kid, but I'm the only God of Thunder around here. And guys, make sure you hit that like button because it really helps us out. Is Modi Thorson. When you're one of the most powerful gods to ever walk the 9 realms, there are going to be a few people who want to have a baby with you. When Thor was trapped in hell, he wanted to get out, and the goddess Hela said she would do it, but for a price, and she wanted Thor to give her a baby. And Thor thought this deal wasn't half bad, so he agreed to impregnate Hela in order to be released from hell. This all went off without a hitch, and then after a few weeks, a child just showed up in Asgard, and Thor didn't really know what to do with this kid, and there was a massive war that was about to kick off with the Children of Tomorrow. So Thor didn't have time to protect a kid, teach a kid, and fight off the Children of Tomorrow. So Thor did what any good dad would do and locked his son away in a room with Mjolnir. That way when he was worthy, he would be able to break out of the room that he was locked away in. Seems like a smart parenting plan. So time flowed faster in the room, so after a couple weeks, Modi Thorson was a full-grown man and could now wield Mjolnir. He burst out of the room, he hated his dad, and then he tried to destroy America to build a new Asgard, and he had some pretty intense magical powers. Coming at number 7, we have X-23. No, technically not a child. Wolverine didn't impregnate someone to make X-23, but he has definitely raised her as a daughter, and he has an emotional attachment to her as if she was his own flesh and blood, which she is, just not in the traditional sense. X-23 is of course the clone of Wolverine, who was built for one reason and one reason only: to be a tool of death. She has Wolverine's same powers and has been trained in hand-to-hand combat in ways that rival even Wolverine himself. She also constantly struggles with the fact that she was made as a weapon. The people who made her see her as property and can use her for whatever nefarious purposes they want, but of course Laura Kinney, also known as X-23, is a person and doesn't want to be treated like someone's property. I don't know if the people making her ever thought that she would take after her father. Like maybe it was a bad idea to clone the dude who you tried to turn into a weapon before and then rebel rebelled against you and has been fighting against you ever since he escaped. Who would have thought that his clone would do pretty much the exact same thing? Coming in at number 6 we have Hope Summers. The aptly named Hope was the first mutant to make it into existence after the world was hit with the tragic event known as M-Day. This of course was the day that nearly all of the mutants were wiped from Earth, and it would seem that no mutant would ever be born again. Once this girl was alive, she showed immense levels of power. She was able to bust Rogue out of a coma, and it would seem that this new mutant would be the target for everyone who either wanted mutants dead or who wanted to direct the future of mutant kind. So Cable takes the child to the future where she can grow up in secret and train with one of the greatest warriors of all time. She would later come back with a strong understanding of her powers. Hope Summers has the ability to mimic other mutants' powers and even use them more powerful than the original host. So she basically has the power to show you up at your own game. She'd be like, oh yeah, you have eye lasers? Well, I'll just beat you at your own game with these eye lasers that are even stronger than yours. Hope is also an Omega level mutant, and some think that she could be responsible for the dystopian future that so many of the time travelers are afraid of. Coming in at number 5 we have James Hudson Jr. Well, it turns out that getting another super healing mutant with claws and bloodlust that can't be matched can be created in more ways than just cloning. James Hudson Jr. is the son of Wolverine, and this guy is a badass. This was a little bit of a sneaky move pulled off by the spy Magda. She stole a serum that would guarantee that a baby would come out as a mutant. She then juiced herself up with the serum and then found Wolverine, and the two got hot and heavy. Magda got pregnant, and once she gave birth to a baby, she found Wolverine and was like, hey dude, here's your kid, and left the kid with Wolverine. And I think it's safe to say that Wolverine wouldn't be the best dad ever, which I think he even knows about himself. So Wolverine found an old war buddy, James Hudson, and he left the baby with him for him and his wife to raise. When James Hudson Jr. was finally old enough, his powers revealed themselves, and it turned out he was just like his daddy. From there it was a little harder to keep the secret about who his daddy actually was, and then we start to get some conflicts between Wolverine and his angsty son. Coming in at number 4 we have Photon, the son of Captain Marvel and one of the most dangerous beings that has ever been brought into the Marvel universe. Photon has bounced around through a few different phases as a hero. He started off as trying to figure out who he was under the Banner legacy. Then he even took the mantle of Captain Marvel for a bit, but eventually he came into his final form of Photon, and it would seem that this form was so powerful it could warp reality itself, and his physical form was so strong that there would never be anything that could destroy him. But it turns out that the Thunderbolts had to find a way to destroy him because Photon couldn't control his powers, and this was going to lead to reality being ripped apart, as it occasionally does in comic books. Basically what happened was Photon was constantly pulling energy into his body without the ability to slow this down. So the Thunderbolts actually had to find a way to dismember him and move his separate body parts into different realities so his body wouldn't bring the end of time and space. It's kind of a bummer for him because he really just wanted to be a good guy. Coming at number 3 we have Kashamba, Black Panther's grandson in one of the most hectic universes that has ever been created in Marvel. For those of you who don't know, Kashamba exists in the Marvel Zombies universe where people are constantly ripping at each other's throats to try and survive. Kashamba had to watch his grandfather, Black Panther, get turned into a zombie to survive. This obviously scares the hell out of the boy, and things get even crazier when the new king takes over Wakanda and then tries to have Black Panther killed. I think it's safe to say that this kid won't grow up well adjusted. Nothing like the mental scarring of your grandfather becoming a zombie and then having an entire nation that you're supposed to inherit try to kill him. Also, later in this comic series, the brain of Steve Rogers gets implanted into Kashamba's body. Things just fly off the handle in this universe. I mean, the people on Earth 616 thought that they had it rough, but there are way crazier things waiting out for you out in the multiverse. Coming in at number 2 we have HULKLING. He is the product of forbidden love, and his origin actually has very little to do with the Hulk, surprisingly. So Teddy Kaplan Altman was living on Earth not thinking that anything strange was going to happen, but one day he's approached by a Super Skrull who starts telling him that he's part of an alien race and he needs to go to space. Whoa, that's a lot for a kid to take in. Later it's revealed that the lady that he thought was his mom was actually a Skrull, but not his mother. She's a Skrull that was sent to Earth with him to protect him. Then it's revealed that his actual mother is a Skrull princess and his father is a Kree warrior known as the Avenger Captain Marvel. For those of you who don't know, the Kree and the Skrull hate each other, so this is a Romeo and Juliet scenario. Well, the two sides start fighting over who should have custody rights over this mixed alien kid who thought he was a human, and they decide on joint custody. He'll spend half his life with the Kree and the other half with the Skrull, but a Skrull takes his place so he can stay on Earth. This storyline has more plot twists than an episode of Days of Our Lives. Now, outside of this crazy backstory, Hulkling has super strength and the power to shapeshift. He mimics the Hulk's powers and can shift his powers into so many other forms. Coming in at number 1, we have Wiccan. You know, if you're the son of both Scarlet Witch and Vision, you're gonna have some pretty serious powers. But Wiccan didn't even know that he was the baby of 2 of the greatest heroes of all time. Eventually, he met up with the young Avengers Speed and he realized that the 2 of them are brothers. Eventually, it's revealed who his real parents are, and they should have known because they all have very similar powers. Wiccan can fly, use magic, alter reality, create force fields, teleport, communicate through the mind, and control things with his mind. And if he's anything like his mama, he might end up being one of the strongest superhumans to ever be on planet Earth. We should probably get this kid into some therapy right now, and everyone should be super nice to him. We don't need another M-Day event happening. You know how everything got screwed up and reality was shifted forever.
Number 10. Ava Ayala. From her introduction in the comics, Ava Ayala was pretty much always involved with the Avengers. She possesses the White Tiger amulet, which grants her powers. She enrolled in the Avengers Academy and was later declared an official Avengers member during her time with Luke Cage's Mighty Avengers in Volume 2 of the series named after the team, during the Infinity event. Fun fact, if you exclude Doc Ock's Superior Spider-Man, the Mighty Avengers would be considered to be an all-black superhero team. I think that's pretty cool. Number 9. Samuel Guthrie. Young Samuel Guthrie is also known as Nova, though he isn't the first one to take up that mantle. There have actually been many Novas, as Nova is short for Nova Centurion, and Centurion is a rank in the Nova Corps, which is a Xandarian military group who are mostly used in space exploration missions. Sam was the son of Jesse Alexander, who himself was a Nova Centurion. Sam ended up taking up his father's mantle after his father appeared to go missing. Sam would later end up crash landing on Earth and warning the Avengers of the incoming Phoenix Force during the Avengers vs. X-Men event. Siding with Avengers and doing his best to help them in their fight would grant Sam the opportunity to join the team. In Avengers vs. X-Men Volume 1 Issue 12, Thor offered him a membership to the team. While Nova admitted he felt he didn't do much to help, he was honored and accepted, pending his mother's approval of course. Cause you know, Nova's a youngster, he's gotta ask mom. Number 8. Blue Marvel. For those who aren't familiar with Adam Brashear, he is a brilliant engineer and physicist who ended up getting superpowers similar to Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel. He can absorb energy as well, but not quite in the same way. He can only absorb antimatter energy or energy from the negative zone, basically energy not of our world or universe. So he typically does a lot of space fighting as a result, cause it's kinda where he's the most useful. He's also sometimes known for his romantic relationship with Spectrum, aka Monica Rambeau. He wasn't acknowledged as an official member of the Avengers until the self-titled Mighty Avengers series Volume 2 out of 2012. Luke Cage, the team leader, acknowledged him as an Avenger during the Infinity event when he was helping the team. Though we would later find out that Adam had actually been part of a team predating Luke's from the 1970s, also referred to as the Mighty Avengers. But this wouldn't happen till issue 11 of the series, whereas he was welcomed to the team officially in issue 3 in regards to comic book timeline. So it was in the past, but it also happened after. You know, just normal retcons of sprinkling in more flavor. Number 7. Jane Foster. After Thor found he could no longer lift his hammer, Jane began to hear the call from Mjolnir. She had Heimdall take her to it and claim the hammer for herself. She was deemed worthy enough to pick it up and became Thor. Lady Thor, that is. Despite being diagnosed with cancer and finding out that her transformation into Thor wiped away all the progress of her chemo at the time, Jane continued to perform acts of heroism as Thor. Cause she's cool and brave like that. She has joined the Avengers team in a few instances, one being when she joined the Reform team in the all-new, all-different Avengers series. Number 6. Miles Morales. Miles Morales is the Spider-Man of Earth 1610. He was mentored by Peter Parker of Earth 616 and eventually also ended up joining Earth 616 Avengers as well. He joined the team in the all-new, all-different Avengers series. Miles found himself tangled up with Iron Man and Sam Wilson, who was Captain America at the time, and a ragtag crew of heroes in an attempt to take down the Chitauri warlord known as Warbringer. The team wasn't referring to themselves as the Avengers yet, but of course as the series is named, that they would later be referred to as the Avengers. You're Avengers now, whether you like it or not. Number 5. Kamala Khan. I was just going to straight up title her as Miss Marvel cause I mean that's who she is to me now, but Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel was part of the Avengers way before what I would consider new, and I didn't want to cause any unnecessary confusion, so much respect to Kamala as Miss Marvel, but for clarity we're just going to call her by her civilian name here, Kamala Khan. I really love Kamala Khan as an Avenger as well. Kamala also joined up with the Avengers in the all-new, all-different Avengers series, also appearing in issue 1, where we saw Miles and Nova as well. The three heroes would actually later leave the Avengers to start their own superhero team known as the Champions. After helping to take down Warbringer, Stark would offer Kamala a place on the Avengers team, which of course she happily accepted. Number 4. Nadia Van Dyne. Nadia Van Dyne was originally just Nadia. She was the daughter of Hank Pym and his first wife, Maria Travoia. How did she end up with Janet Van Dyne's last name? Well, she asked her if she could use it. She felt she knew and admired Van Dyne more than her parents, whom she really had never known. In fact, Nadia was actually kidnapped at a young age and raised in Russia in the Red Room, where she was trained to become a spy, which is why we hadn't heard of her until much later. She eventually escaped her fate as a Red Room agent and decided to seek out her stepmother Janet and her father's teammates, the Avengers, after learning that her father had been killed in the fight against ULTRON. Nadia also took up the codename WASP. Following the events of Civil War II, she ended up joining the Avenger team herself. Janet and the rest of the team ended up warming to her, and Janet revealed that she actually approved of Nadia adopting her mantle. Aw, cute. Number 3. Dr. Tony Ho. After her father died saving Tony Stark's life, Tony resented Stark and strived to be better than him. I just realized this will be confusing because both of these people are named Tony. She studied programming and engineering at Caltech and ended up earning 3 doctorates by the age of 20. Her time with the Avengers began on Roberto da Costa, aka Sunspot's team of Avengers, AIM. Da Costa changed the acronym to stand for Avengers Idea Mechanics. She has appeared in the New Avengers comics and eventually left AIM to join the US Avengers and ended up taking up the mantle of Iron Patriot. Tony creates her own armored combat suits similar to Iron Man's, which she refers to as rescue armor. She refers to them as rescue armor probably because they're all non-lethal as well. That's kind of her thing. It's all about non-lethal fighting, keeping things safe. Number 2. Ghost Rider. Robbie Reyes is the Ghost Rider we are talking about this time. He was first introduced in the all-new Ghost Rider and is a car mechanic by day who street races at night in an effort to get money to help him and his brother move out of their rough neighborhood. He ends up possessed by the vengeful spirit of his uncle Eli and becomes Ghost Rider. Eventually, Robbie joins up with the Avengers. You can see him fight alongside the team in the New Avengers comic series out of 2018 to 2019 Volume 8. At one point, he even becomes the heart of an event where he is granted the powers of the other Avengers so that he can eventually go up against and hopefully take on what appears to be the Dark Celestials. Appears to be anyways. I know. What a story, right? He's also just a really sweet older brother. Also, cars. Number 1. Voyager. Vini Gost is the daughter of Grandmaster Endwi Gost. She originally used her powers to infiltrate the Avengers, inserting herself into their memories to make them believe she was a long-lost founding member of the team known as Valerie Vector. Voyager did that for her dad, Endwi Gost, to help him protect his title of Grandmaster, basically to help guarantee a winning wager on a contest he had gambled his title on with her uncle Challenger, who sought to win the bet and usurp her father. He used to be the Grandmaster before. Anyways, it's a lot of history, so we'll skip that. In the end, her true identity was revealed by Jarvis. After being inspired by the Avengers' true heroics, she decided to switch sides, defecting and seeking to help them and Earth instead. In the end, they offered Voyager a membership. Though she declined, she did agree to return to reclaim her membership at a later time. And in the series Avengers No Road Home, she is acknowledged as an Avenger on the character intro page.
Starting us off in at number 10, Professor Hulk. While it seems that it's a given that Clint Barton would want to return to his family as he initially planned before Captain America Civil War, and end up doing whatever his Disney Plus show will have him up to, one major question left hanging about the previous Avengers team is what on earth the Hulk is going to do now. It seems that Professor Hulk, the nickname of the Banner and Hulk fusion that he's become, may act as a scientific advisor of sorts to the new Avengers, or perhaps even find himself on the team. With Fury seemingly having his hands full with this multiverse business, who better to help rally the troops, inspire them, and keep them up to date with what's scientifically what than a Genius X member of the previous iteration. Plus, who doesn't love Mark Ruffalo? Please keep him, Marvel Studios. In at number 9, the Wasp. When the team first formed in 1963 in the Avengers issue 1, Earth's mightiest heroes consisted of Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Ant-Man, and the Wasp, with Captain America joining after he was defrosted in issue 4. Their very first mission had them pitted against Thor's brother Loki, and the group realized how well they worked together, deciding that they should form a team. It was Wasp who named the group Avengers, a slightly different take than how the name came to be in the MCU. But it does bring to attention the fact that Wasp was once a very important character in the comics as far as the Avengers were concerned, and remained that way in the comics for years and years. Giving the MCU version of her more of a chance to shine, despite, not being the original Janet Van Dyne, may go a long way with comic fans who adored the original iteration of the team, and would love to see part of that adapted into the films. Moving on to number 8, Ant-Man. Scott Lang has definitely earned his stripes in the MCU. Now with 2 solo features and playing a major role in reversing the snap in Endgame, Ant-Man is very much a hero who has come into his own, and would add a really solid set of skills to a new Avengers team. Plus, he'd make for some fantastic banter, especially when paired up with the likes of some of the more serious heroes that the MCU has to offer. His inclusion would be yet another way to fill the Iron Man-shaped void in the team, especially from a scientific perspective. Scott has Hank Pym at his side, who just so happens to also be the father of the new Wasp, Hope. And with the multiverse now very much a thing in the MCU, Hank's involvement and work with the quantum realm could really go a long way in fighting whatever threat the gang faces next, especially if it's the highly speculated Kang the Conqueror, who's all about his time travel and hopping around different dimensions. And at number 7, Sam Wilson. At the end of Avengers Endgame, we saw Steve Rogers return as an old man after his mission with the Infinity Stones to pass on the mantle of Captain America to his successor, which was none other than Falcon Sam Wilson. While some fans were up in arms over the choice, a lot of people felt that it should have been Bucky or that Steve and Bucky deserved better closure, we now have the opportunity to really see Sam shine and kick some major butt as a completely different kind of Captain America. Where the mantle will take him, who knows, but what we do know is that he does stand a solid chance of ending up on the Avengers. The one argument against that though is the fact that he's slated to have a show coming up on Disney's streaming service alongside the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. And quite frankly, watching those two in some sort of buddy comedy action-packed program may just be enough to satisfy us. Can the Avengers do without another Captain America? Well, only time will tell. And at number 6, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange always seems to be a superhero living just on the outside of the core group of characters in the MCU. He's a very important hero though, being a connection to all things mystical, having a ceaseless stream of wisdom and knowledge that has really come in handy in the past. And he's slated to get a sequel solo film too. While we'd love to see Doctor Strange join up with the Avengers, we'd be curious to see how his dynamic would play into the team, now that the seemingly ripe combination of Iron Strange is behind us. That is the ship name for Doctor Strange and Iron Man, in case you were wondering. We'll never forget how fantastic their banter was. And at number 5, Shuri. When Shuri first appeared in the MCU in Black Panther, we quickly learned how completely badass she was. Not only is she the smartest person in the MCU currently, she's also incredibly charismatic. And the internet was quick to ship her and Peter Parker, despite the two never having met. Now imagine an iteration of the Avengers in which her and Spider-Man gallivanted around, being the best of pals, saving lives, and kicking crime's butt. It may be wishful thinking, but Shuri being added to the team would be a wise choice, especially since she has so much to offer when it comes to brains and brawn. Speaking of badass women, in at number 4, Valkyrie. Now that Thor's off somewhere in space, who better to replace him on the team than another Asgardian? One who was given the throne to New Asgard and reigns as queen. Valkyrie was a huge hit in Thor Ragnarok, to the point where fans expressed their disappointment that she was nowhere to be seen in Avengers Infinity War. Now that changed in Endgame, when the badass hero played by Tessa Thompson showed up on a freaking Pegasus. Stop. Could you be any cooler? She'd definitely be able to fill in for the God of Thunder and may even add a bit of romance to the team too. The internet has been hardcore shipping her and a certain character played by Brie Larson, who most definitely will end up on the Avengers team. So who knows what the future holds. Regardless, Valkyrie has proven to be capable of kicking major butt, and she'd definitely have a solid chance for membership, with her potentially being able to give us a few comical moments similar to Thor's when it comes to understanding Earth's social norms. Except more sarcastic, we hope. Moving on to number 3, Black Panther. Black Panther proved to be one of the most popular and successful solo films that the MCU has released to date. T'Challa, the King of Wakanda, is a character who has a whole lot of story left to explore, and we already know that a sequel is in the works. It seems likely that Marvel Studios would want to continue the hype around Black Panther, and explore more of what Wakanda and the character's history in the comics has to offer, by plopping him into Marvel's team of mighty heroes. I mean, come on, Black Panther would be a dope addition to the Avengers. He's already fought alongside them too, he knows his way around a battle, and he's a king. Talk about resources. I don't got that Stark money no more, that's for sure. Too soon? And at number 2, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is the most powerful superhero we've encountered so far in the MCU. And that's a fact, confirmed by Marvel Studios themselves. Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, has a whole lot of story to explore, which is yet another fact confirmed by the studios. Her first feature film gave us a look at her backstory, set up the political landscape between two major warring extraterrestrial races, and gave us a glimpse at just what Carol is capable of doing on the battlefield. We got to see her in action yet again in Endgame, even holding holding her own against Thanos, who was wearing the Infinity Gauntlet at the time. So naturally, many people believe she'll be the one to step in Captain America's shoes, acting as the leader of the Avengers, with at least another 2 solo films likely on their way if the rollout of Phase 2 and 3 are anything to go by. Plus, she already has a connection to S.H.I.E.L.D. via her pal Nick Fury, or I guess what's left of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it seems that she's perfectly set up to join the team, assuming she's done with her spacefaring days for a while. And finally, in at number 1, Spider-Man. In Avengers Infinity War, Tony Stark made Peter Parker an official Avenger, something the youngster at the time was ecstatic over, despite, being thrust into space. Now that Tony has died, many people believe that Peter will really have to step up, which is something that was only further emphasized in the trailers for Spider-Man Far From Home. Based on his experience and the fact that he's got quite the intellect, it seems likely that Parker will be learning the meaning of great power means great responsibility sooner rather than later, now being one of the only heroes that the likes of Nick Fury can turn to in a time of need. And from a strictly marketing purpose, you know damn well that Marvel Studios is going to keep Spider-Man around for a long time. He's young, he's charismatic, and he's the publisher's biggest hero as far as the comics are concerned. So expect to see Peter Parker as part of the team in upcoming phases. That's practically a certainty.